Hello, this is Next God Creations. Welcome to my YouTube studio. Today, we will look at one principle of design, which is hierarchy. Hierarchy refers to the focus or arrangement in your design. So, in order to create a hierarchy, you can use repetition, colors, or contrast. For instance, I utilize repetition to create a hierarchy or focus in this design. The repetition here is the name, which is Next God, before the image. So if anybody looks at this flyer, where the focus will go first is the Next God, which is the name. Another example is this African design that I recently did. If you look at this design, your focus will go to the African night before this image, then the date and the till you drop. This method is called the Z principle. This is how it goes: African to the image, then till you drop. It's the Z principle. Another example is this worship flyer. I utilize color to create a hierarchy in this design. For instance, the background is white, and in the white background, the only thing with a color is this worship. So if anybody looks at this design, where the focus will go, or where the person will first focus, is this worship. This is how hierarchy goes. So without wasting much time, let's dive into Photoshop and utilize this method to create our own design. So we will start with this beggar design. So let's create our working space. I'll head over to File, New, then I'll go to Print, then I'll select A3, then I'll click on Create. I want to use a perfect square, so I'll have to crop my sheet using this crop tool. Then I'll head over here, then select 1:1, which is square. Then I'll press on this tick icon. In this design, the background is green, so we will have to create a green background. We can do that by selecting this rectangle icon. Then create a rectangle bigger than the working space. So now let's create a color by going to FS, Color Overlay. Then we will change this orange color to green, dark green. Then OK. And after this green background, we can see a shining light green shining over here. We can create that by using brush. So you will click on this plus icon to create a new layer here. Then we will select our brush tool, then make it a bit larger by right click, then increase the size. Then we will have to reduce the hardness to 0. So now let's change the color to this light green over here. So we have to head over to this small box, the black one, click, then change the color to light green. Okay, then you click in the middle to create that lightning light green. So now let's insert our image, this beggar image. I can do that by opening a new folder. then locate where my image is. This is the image, so I'll do drag and drop. I'll have to position it. Then check icon. So now we have to type this name, which is the hierarchy that we want to create, where the focus should be, which is this next god. So I'll select this T, the text tool. I'll click on it, then come over to my working space, then click once. It will type, so I have to clear all those texts. You can do that by using Ctrl A to select all, then backspace to clear. Then you type the name of the product, which is next god. Then change the font by highlighting everything using the shortcut Ctrl A. Then head over here to this side. The name I will use is A Love of Tender. This is the font name. But it is green over here, but when you check the design, it is white. So we have to change the color here from light green to white. We can do that by going to FS, Color Overlay. Then you click on this box. It will bring us here. Then this H, we have to press on this H. Then drag this small circle to the white side. Then press OK. OK. Now we can enlarge the name. Then place it in the middle. So let's duplicate using Ctrl J to Ctrl J. It will duplicate. Then you bring it down. Ctrl J to bring it down. Ctrl J to drag it down. Ctrl J to drag it down. Now, these names need to be behind the image, which is the beggar. So we can do that by selecting the first name, this one, then the last one. Press Shift before you click on the last name. Then you drag it to this below the beggar, this layer. It will draw a blue line. Then you release your hand from the click. Simple. It will go behind the image. Now, we want to create this small red circle, then type inside Order Now. We can do that by clicking on this small icon, the rectangle tool icon. Don't release your hand. Click till a new menu pop up. Then you select this ellipse tool. Then press on Shift. Don't release your hand. Then draw a circle to get a perfect circle. Now the colors here is light red and dark red. We can achieve that using gradients. So we have to select this circle. Head over to FS. Then go to Gradient. Gradient will give us two colors. So you see it has turned to light green and dark green, but we want dark red and light red. So you will click inside this color here. Then select here, click on this side, then come to this color box. Click, then select red, dark red. Okay, then this green one too. Glipper. This green one too, we will change it to light red. Simple as that. Okay. Then we will type inside Order Now. Using the text tool, you will click, then clean everything here, then type order. Now I want it to be center alignment, so I'll have to select everything, Ctrl A as I said earlier, then select this another alignment. Then I have to change the font to MTN. I'll use MTN extra bold. Then I'll reduce the size, then place it inside this circle. But the color needs to be white, so I'll select it, head over to FS. I want it to be only one color, so this time around I'm not going to use gradient overlay. I'm going to use color overlay. Okay, it's too big, so I'll have to reduce the size a bit, then center it. You can even use your arrow keys to position it. Simple. Now I'll have to place these small leaves on it. I have it as a PNG, so I'll go to my window icon. I think it's on my desktop. Yes, so I'll just drag and drop, then I'll scale it up a bit. So let's head over here. I think the design is done. So this is one way to use hierarchy using the repetition method, because the purpose of a flyer or a design is to communicate information. And if you want to communicate information, the focus should be bigger so that anybody afar can just identify that this is the information that the design is trying to communicate. Another example is this African design. So the focus, remember, is still on hierarchy. So the focus of the design or the main idea should be bigger. So let's create this Africa using this hierarchy method. The African knight should be bigger and it has to come first before any other thing else. And because it is African, that is why I utilize this image, the lady with the afro hair. So let's create a new working space by heading over to File as we did for the previous one, New, then we will select A3. Go to Print, then select A3. You can even double click on it to open. I want a perfect square like this one. It's a perfect square, so I want to use a perfect square sheet. So I'll head over to Crop as we did for the first one. Then I'll press Enter on my keyboard. So now the background is black. So let's create that by using the Shape tool. Now it is on Eclipse, so I have to change it to rectangle. I can do that by clicking without releasing my hand till it opens a new pop-up menu. Then I'll release my hand and click tool. I'll click on the rectangle tool. Then I'll create my black background. Hey. So now let's change the color to black as we did for the previous one. You head over to FS, color overlay, then you will click on this white box to black, then you press OK. So now let's import the image of this lady here. Okay, I have the image here. Then I'll drag and drop, scale it up a bit, then I'll place it here. Let's check and see. Yes, let's scale it up a bit. So let's type this Africa. Heading over to the T, which is the text tool, click, you clean everything, then you tap Africa. First capital, then the rest will be small letter. Then I want to change the font, so I'll highlight everything using Ctrl A, then I'll head over to this side, then I'll click on this icon. I utilize the Refik free font, so this is it. If you want it, you can DM me or type it in the comment section. I will send it to you. Then I will scale it up a bit, Africa. But remember, if you want to move anything, you have to use the move tool. I have a tutorial in my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, you can watch that video. I have explained everything about Photoshop. Then this night, using the text tool, I'll click, clean everything, then I'll type nice. Everything in small letters. Highlight everything. Using this icon, I'll change the font to Arista. Then I'll enlarge it a bit, then place it under the Africa. Let's check and see, like this. Africa night. We are making progress. So let's create this rectangle. Using the rectangle tool, I will create this rectangle. But remember, it has a rounded edges like this, a rounded edges. So we can do that by clicking on this dot here. You can click and drag. Don't release your hand, drag like this. But we don't want the inside to be filled with green. So come here to this side, fill, reduce everything to 0. Then head over to FS, go to stroke. Then you change the color to orange like this. Then you press OK. Then I'll position it. So what next? So I'll type the date and the time, which is 1st June, then 7 p.m. Using the text tool, I'll click, clean everything, then I'll type 1st June. I'll change the font to MTN. I'll highlight everything, click on this arrow down, then I can search MTN. Then I'll change it to MTN. Then I'll change the color from white to orange. Remember, color overlay using the FS. So FS, color overlay. Then I'll click on this box. Then I'll search orange, or I can even select it from this side. Then you press OK. So now let's learn one shortcut here. I want to type the time, but I don't want to go here to the text, wherever to FS. I will just press Ctrl J. It will duplicate. Then I'll drag it down. Then I'll double click, then select 7 p.m. You see, this one is fast. Then I'll select this 7 p.m. Click on Shift, then click on the date to select both. Then I'll position them well. So now I will have to type till you drop. So I'll still use the text tool, or I can copy, duplicate using, I'll select what I want to duplicate using the move tool, then clicking on it, then I'll press on Ctrl J, then I'll drag it here, then I'll type till you draw. Then I want to change the font, so I'll highlight everything using Ctrl A, click on this arrow, I'll change it to Refig free font. Then I'll change the color overlay to white. Same process, white. Let's check and see. So now I'll have to import these drums. So I have it on my desktop. PNG. Okay, this is it. Then I'll drag and drop. Then I'll position one here. Let me reduce the size a bit. And I'll duplicate using Ctrl J, the same shortcut. Ctrl J. This is it. Then I'll have to, you see, both of them are facing the right direction, but I want the one on the right to face the opposite, which is the left. So I'll have to right click, first of all click on one point here, then right click, then go to flip horizontal like this. Then I'll select both by selecting one, then using shift, I'll click on shift. Without releasing my hand, I'll click on the other image, then I'll reduce the size to fit here like this. So now let's create these lines. Creating these lines, you will do that by using the brush tool. So I'll have to create a new empty layer by using this plus icon here to create a new layer called the layer 1. Then I'll go to my brush, select brush. Then I'll have to reduce the size. See, because these lines or this stroke are too small, so I have to reduce the size of my brush. I can do that by right click, then reduce the size. Let's see, something like this is okay. Let me see, it's okay. I have to change the color to white. It is writing green because of this green here, so I'll have to click on this green, then change it to white. Now let's make these strokes, these 3 ones. So I'll do 1, 2, 3. The other one too is 3. So 1, 2, then 3. You click and drag, it will automatically draw. Then these ones, 1, then the 2. It's like a question mark. So like this and like this. And the one on the hair of this woman. So that one, let me zoom in using these two, the zoom tool. Then zoom in, then I'll select my brush. Then let's look at it for the last time. So I'll draw, Ctrl Z undo, Ctrl Z undo. So I'll draw, Ctrl Z. Anything you do something of which you don't like, you press Ctrl Z, it will undo. Then the other one here, this side, the outline on her hand. So we will draw like this. Let's check. Then the one here, draw that one. So let's check, and these small ones, so you draw. I think that is all. This brings us to the end of our design. So this is another utilization of hierarchy using the image and the name. So as I said, it is the Z principle. Z principle because if you look at this design, your focus will come to the name African Night before the image like this, then the other ones. So it goes like this, the Z principle. This is how it goes. Now, let's design our last work for this tutorial, which is this worship flyer. We are also going to create a hierarchy using a color. Remember, the background is white and the name of the program, which is worship, is popping. So this is a hierarchy created using color. So let's start the same process. Select file, new, then you will select A4. You can do that by double clicking. Then you see it's a square, a perfect square. So we can create that workspace by selecting the crop tool, heading here, then select 1:1, which is square. Then you press on enter. So now we have our working space. So let's create this. Let's go creation present. By heading over to the text tool, you click, then you type next God. Select the move tool. You see now nothing is showing because the text is white and the background too is white. So now let's change it to black using FS color overlay. Then this box, the white one, then we change it to black. Say okay. Now let's change the font to something like MTN. So you double click, it will highlight all, then you change the font to MTN extra bold. If you don't have it, you can still DM me or you can still download this on the internet. So let's go creations. Let me add the creations. Double click, then I'll click in front of the D space, then I'll add the creations. Select my move tool, I'll position it in the center, position it at the center, then reduce the size because it is too small. That is not our main focus, so this thing has to be small. Then present. So the same method, Ctrl J to duplicate, then I'll type present. These are not the focus, these are not the information we want to communicate, so they have to be small, class, small. Let's check. So worship is the main thing, so that one has to be bigger than everything, not that big but big enough to catch attention. So worship. Let's change the color by heading over to FS color overlay. Then you see, let me press OK. You see now this worship, it has two color, orange to red. So in this case we can't use color overlay, we have to use color gradient or gradient overlay. So let's select our worship, go to FS gradient overlay because it has two colors. Now let me untick this color overlay, other than that the gradient won't show. So let me untick it. You see now the gradient is showing. So I'll click here, then change this one to red. This side I'll click and come to color, then change it to red. Then I'll click on this side, then I'll change it to orange by dragging this one here and change it to orange. Now let me change the font to Refik. I can do that by double click to highlight all, then I'll head over to here, then Refik free. This is the font I want to use. Select my move tool, then I'll scale it up because it is the main focus and that is what I'm using to create my hierarchy. I'll have to enlarge it. That one has to be big. So this is the hierarchy, this is our focus. So I have to scale that one up. Worship. Then I'll write this night. It is black, so I don't want to do color overlay and stuff, so I'll still duplicate one of these, Ctrl J, then I'll drag it down, then I'll type the night in small letters. Hey, night. Then I'll highlight all, then change my font style to autograph. Then I'll scale it up a bit. So in this case, when somebody look at this design, where the focus will first go is on this worship before this night, because of the colors in the worship, or the colors are used to color this text, the worship. So now let's import our image. This girl here praying, let's import that image. I have it as a PNG. A PNG image is an image without a background. So I think I have it somewhere on my desktop. Yes. So drag and drop. So I'll scale it up a bit. Let's look at how I position this one. So it will go down, reduce the size. So in order to create a beautiful design, you have to get a hierarchy in your design. So let's create this box and write the praise, worship, dance, anticipate, and blah 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 blah. Using the rectangle tool, I can create one of the rectangle by click, don't release your hand, you drag, then you release. Now you see it has a two color, orange and red. So we are going for the gradient overlay. So FS gradient overlay. Boom. Okay. Then I'll duplicate that one, Ctrl J. Then I'll drag it here. Then change that one to green and light green, dark green and light green. So FS gradient overlay. Then I'll click inside this box. Then I'll click on here. Then I'll change the color to dark green and change this orange to two light green. Then okay. So the last one here is also orange, which is the same color as the first one. So what I'll have to do is duplicate this one using Ctrl J. Then I'll drag it over here. We're almost done with this design. You see, design is simple. By knowing the principles, you can create a simple design without any complicated background or styles. So I'll type praise, worship, and dance. So I'll use this font, Ctrl J, I'll duplicate. Then I'll type, hey, let me drag it down here. I'll double click, not double click, double click, then type praise, worship, dance. Then I'll highlight everything, then use the left alignment. Then now you see now it is not displaying because it is under the rectangle. So I'll have to drag it. Let me do Ctrl Z, undo. You see when you check here, it is below the rectangle is here, but the text overlay is here, which is under, so it won't display unless I drag it upwards on top of the rectangle. It will draw a blue line, means I can release my hand from the click. Then I'll release my hand. You see now it is showing. Then let me scale it up a bit. Then I'll change the colors to white because orange goes well with white. We will talk about colors but in a different video, so watch out, subscribe to my channel, and if you are ready for it, turn on the notification button. Then I'll have to type anticipate in the green rectangle. So with the same color and font, I don't have to type everything again. I'll have to duplicate this one, Ctrl J. Then I'll drag it here. Then I'll double click. Then change it to anticipate. Then I'll duplicate. Then drag 2023. Then I'll place it there. I'll place it in the center. So now it's left with the texture. This texture here, I have it on my PC. Let me apply it and boom, we are done. I think I have it somewhere here, textures. And this one. Hey, don't open. Drag and drop. Loading. Then I'll scale it up. Again, if you want this texture, you can get it on PNG Wing, or you can still DM me or give me a message in the comment section. I'll send it to you. Then I'll bring it below the design. Then I'll reduce the opacity. This one, opacity. Then I'll reduce it. Let me reduce it to like 28. I think 28 is okay. So you see this design, the same thing. Okay, it's left with one thing. This shining thing brighten over here. This thing. It's a PNG. I have it. If you also need it, you can DM me, or say you can send me a DM on my Instagram page, Next God Creations. I'll reply and send it, or help you to download it. I have it here. Let me rasterize it. I don't want any trouble. Then I'll place it here. Then change this one to screen. I'll change it to screen. The blending mode to screen. So the same thing. This one to this one. The same thing. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are done for today. Don't forget to subscribe, share, then leave a comment. Thank you.